Hi, this is video one of two. This is Taiji 8-step for functional fitness. Now, what I offer, we have two programs: classical Chongqi Tai Chi Chuan, and then we have Tai Chi for functional fitness. And that's what I'm going to focus on these videos here. These are more for the person that is purely trying to come to Tai Chi for learning the movements and how to apply it in a certain way to get better results for balance and stability and overall generalized strength that we can improve on. So I have a few points here that I want to discuss in this video. The second video will just purely be performance. And this video is the first one of, I don't know, maybe at least a dozen that I will make over the next, between now and the fall. This is the end of March of 2025. And that being said, say if you were at home and you had your smart TV, and you may be watching it on one right now, or your laptop, but you should be able to watch these videos and be able to see me, and as it relates to the demonstration aspect, I will do something facing to the front, and I'll do it facing to the back, so that all you have to do in your living room, turn on the TV, put it on YouTube, and go to a channel, and you should be able to watch the forms. Most of all of these are none of these pieces that will be in this series will be things that are very long, meaning there's either going to be something to the left and to the right, or maybe one or two pieces to the left and one or two pieces to the right, but that's it. But you should be able to, with the whole series of routines, you should be able to just be right there in the comfort of your living room and be able to watch them. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to look at 2 or 3 different things. We'll say point to toe, the direction you were traveling. I know that may not seem like seems pretty simple or whatever, but a lot of people, when they want to do something and they're older, they may not really take the time to turn, to reach, to grab at this thing. They may just try to lean forward off to the side without turning the foot. And this could lead to instability and maybe even falling. Also, too, it's really not that great on my knee if I have some kind of knee complications. That's what we're talking about there. So in this form, the way that we put it together for this functional fitness, I'm always going to turn the direction I'm going, right? If I was in my kitchen and I'm doing something here and I need to reach for something, I'm going to turn me so that I have the best stability I can in this position to reach for it, instead of something this way, right? And we can say that about other things, stepping behind and maybe not being as stable. Turning the rear foot as your weight advances versus the fixed position. In Chongqi Tai Chi, with pretty much all of the stuff, we rotate on the back leg. We don't put a fixed position and then send the weight forward. Now we do that with some pieces, but it's a minority of the movements, where some systems of Tai Chi, the person always, as they step through to do the next move, this foot becomes fixed and they step and then they transfer weight. Well, sometimes if the foot is off, you can put an undue, we'll say, twist in the knee. The knee is for stability. It's a hinge. It moves this way. The ankle and the hip are for mobility, right? So we don't want to do anything to damage the knee. Also, too, in Tai Chi, we want to try to have loose and open joints, and we want to rely on connective tissue and stabilize our muscles. Now, on a deeper level, we're also relying on large muscle groups. So, again, in this set, this is more for a pure beginner or somebody that's coming to me for classes, or you're watching this and you have a lot of instability issues. So when this routine, we're going to always just have that fixed foot position, okay? So when I turn, I would shift this way, right? We don't want to stay with that if we can keep from it. We want to get to the point where we can rotate the foot as we transfer the weight to the front. It's better on our joints, and it will engage more of the muscles to help to strengthen us more. I'm not really trying to put a lot of too much into this, but you should be able to go back through it. There are other videos that I have that delve deeper into these subjects. Forward incline versus upright. What do I mean by that? So there's doing Tai Chi like this, where my body is in this position. See what I mean? And then there's doing it this way. Now this may seem kind of off to you, but in reality, this is much better for my lower back. Chong Tai Chi, when we use larger frames, you see now it doesn't look so, maybe it looks kind of odd, like I'm like in a forward lean. I'm not really. My weight is over my feet, just like right now it is. Or if I have this very narrow, small frame, and I'm in this position, the same thing. My weight is over my foot. There are other styles that use this same type of position. For example, Wu style. It uses a forward incline, but again, please understand, I'm not bending from my hip. See? I'm not like this, but I'm here. So if you look at the ankle to the shoulder, you see a straight line, even though it's at a diagonal. Now, this is helpful for different things. I'm not going to go into that too much in this video, but what it's doing for my muscles, the abdominals and the lumbar are having to work harder, as well as the psoas muscles, to support my torso in this position, which is going to strengthen me more. Here, I'm not getting as much of that. You see what I mean? Now, I'm always in this position also, meaning as I step through, I've done this move here, and I want to step through, I'm going to put me back in this position, and I will step through and then drive. Now, as it relates to kicking and striking maneuvers, most of those I'm not in that same position. For moves like brush knee, I'm going to be in these elongated positions. And they're really good for helping to strengthen the body without having to use additional apparatus. I won't go into deep subject of why that's one thing is more important than another, but I will say this, one more thing as relates to that. Some people will be here, right, and they will actually round the back to be straight instead of bending this leg. You see what I mean? So it creates this tension here in the lower back. And if any force was put into me, it's going to cause a blockage point here. And then if any pressure is going to really potentially damage the disc. I don't want to do that, right? So I would rather either be here, see, as force comes into me, I can absorb it, see? And not just with the knee, but I'm by sinking, right? Or if some force pushed into me, I can almost stabilize me this way and just let the force go through. You have to understand, my joints are not locked. My knee is not locked, even in this position. And we never want anything locked. If you have a lock, then you're going to create just like with the spine, you're going to make it to where all the force is going to end up being directed here instead of being able to travel through. So you'll lose the kinetic chain if you're trying to create one. Let's see here. Back to the sinking and the driving versus shifting, okay? So if you think like this, if the person is always upright and they're in this position like this, and I'm not going to do hand maneuvers, I'm just going to look at the legs. But a lot of times, it's like this, okay? So yeah, what's really getting the work out here, right? The ankle joints and the knee joints, maybe a little bit in the buttocks and the leg muscles, but not as much as you could just by changing it, right? By sinking. See, by sinking, I engage the buttocks, the quadriceps, the hamstrings, the calf muscles as I drive me forward. See, this is much better. If you're trying to come to Tai Chi and you want to get your maximum amount of strength out of it and mobility, because a lot of people, when they come to Tai Chi, even to do something like this is very difficult for them. The psoas muscles will get very tight, especially the ones that go down into the legs, and they can't open up and sink the hips, and they use the term quad. But anyway, I want to be able to do this with my body. I don't want the knee to have to do it for me. Example, if I do like this, and I push down, say, look, I'm not really engaging the hip, I'm just using the knee. a lot of people have knee issues, and we don't want to create more pressure or damage or inflammation in the knee than we have to, right? So we want to evenly distribute that. So look, I'm going to set on my hip, see? So I bend the knee and the hip at the same time. And of course the ankle is helping me out. Versus this. Again, if you're doing Tai Chi because you want to improve your mobility and your strength, let's maximize that. But if you're just doing Tai Chi up here and the teacher is teaching it to you like this because it's easier and he or she doesn't have to dig down with you and try to get you to, we'll say, maximize your physical body, you're never going to get gain without putting in effort, right? And it doesn't mean that each time you work out, you've got to just be, sweating or whatever, but we want to be conscious of the things that help us to improve the mobility and the strength. Let's see, hip versus waist, or we'll say in pelvis, right? So again, back to that same thing, right? If I leave the foot in a fixed position, even if I'm doing sinking and driving, this way versus just shifting, I'm never going to really get any kind of real usage out of the pelvis for power. You know, if you look at a boxer, for example, he may be up with his foot here, and then as he goes to throw the punch, he rotates the pelvis to the front. That same thing is not foreign to Tai Chi or Chinese martial arts in general. There are different ways that it's applied, but we'll say with Tai Chi, we're going to look at turning that back leg. So if I was here, right, and look, my hip is open, my legs are turned out, but if I want to go to the front, I'm going to transfer the weight as I turn the foot, so it helps me to turn the hip at the same time. If I was doing this for power, this would give me a lot more strength. Now, I'm going to say don't do this, right? Like some people, when they do this, they will turn on the ball. You see I set my foot backwards? Like this, and they will turn on the ball, and as they turn it, the foot goes back. So they're sending part of their potential energy for this and backwards and part of it forward. So it kind of not really, you're creating this kinetic chain, but you're never going to put all of the force that you could apply through your hand. Also, too, people will do this, right? I'm going to turn, and they'll turn here, and then they'll push into the knee. If I push into the knee, that additional force that pushed my knee out could have went through my hand for me to generate more strength or force to do what I want to do. Push your door open, right? It's not necessarily the functional fitness. We're talking about this more for our day-to-day stuff. Push that door closed or pull this thing, et cetera, et cetera. And the same thing if it's fixed. If it's fixed, I still want to try to turn the hip somewhat, but it's just you're very limited, right? Some movements, it's okay because I'm more looking at momentum to generate force, right, and the mass and the speed of it, versus just the articulation of the joints. So, but look, if I do this, right, and I shift into the knee, that potential energy that I could have made in my hand, a big portion of it is lost in the knee. It's lost in the knee. We don't want to do that. So I guess my whole point is that we could dig into this deeper, and I really don't want to do this first video because some of these same things we will revisit throughout some of these other videos. But in this piece, just think of it like this. I'm going to use a narrow frame, meaning I'm going to try to do it as wide as my shoulders. Me personally, I'm not that fond of a narrow frame. I like to use a very large frame, right? It's just that I like the way that the movements look and the way they move. But looking at it from a progressive standpoint, no matter who you are, you may start out and you may be 35, and you just don't have you don't have the strength to be in these positions, right? So, maybe you start with a narrow frame, up here a small frame, and you work these pieces. But the form itself, we'll say as we start, our weight is neutral, and we're either going to put it on one leg or the other. We're going to do one of two things. we're either going to turn the femur separately, see, or we're going to turn the femur, the foot, the leg, with the pelvis, right? So I turn the foot out, right? I'm turning the leg, trying to turn the leg independently, right? So I turn the leg independently, and now I would connect it together, all right, like that. That would be my intended goal. In this demonstration of in the second video here, we're not going to do that. We're going to be here. Now we are going to practice turning the legs out or turning them in, but we're going to look at a fixed position. The big thing that I want the person to focus on doing it this way is that once they get in position and they sink and they load, they drive so that they engage the buttocks, the quads, the hamstrings, and the lower leg, right? Again, the weight's here. I take the weight off. I'm going to turn this leg in. I turn this leg out. The weight is here. I set into it, right? I'm going to drive that weight out. So predominantly, that is our big takeaway from this, we'll say, the second video of this, is how to do that when you have limited mobility or stability, or you're new to it, or some combination of things, right? So we're trying to make it so as long as you can stand in a relative, position like this, even if you need something in front of you to support yourself, maybe potentially you're concerned, that's fine. But we want to be able to turn side to side and to the front. We want to be able to step and pivot and turn. Basic things that you need to do in your day-to-day life. So if you've had an injury or something, or you're in a situation where you just didn't really do much for physical activity for a period of time, that's kind of what this video is for. If you're watching this and wondering, wow, this is kind of interesting, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, if you're more than welcome to look at some of my other videos and you will see the same form, then in a more classical approach, right? Where I'm using medium or large frames to do it. Again, we're using a small frame, we're looking at a fixed position, but we're looking at sinking and driving, and then turning from side to side. That's the big takeaway from the video. So I hope you like this video, and like I said, if you watch part 2, and again, I'll be doing the form from the front and the back, and I'm going to talk through the whole piece, where my weight is and what I need to do. It should be easy to follow, and I hope it helps some of you. Thank you.